Bonjour, bonjour à tous. Welcome to a new office hours. Wow, I see that we already have 5 people here, so this is amazing. We have Michael or Michelle and Linda. And if you are here and listening, please say hello in the comments. And if you don't know who you are, you can also say where you're where you're signing in from, if it's the first time that you're here. Our topic for today is, are you sabotaging your French study? Ways to unlock your learning power. So we spoke about it in the previous weeks, and I mentioned that I would be speaking about energy. I will be speaking about energy today. That is, however, going to be just a part or an aspect of the topic. Because even though I could definitely speak about energy for a very long time, and in fact I have in the French Fluency Accelerator, there is a full workshop about energy work for language learning. I figured that it would be better for this place, for these live, which are accessible to everybody, to backtrack a little bit and take it one step higher and speak first about the subconscious and what it is and how it works and how you can tweak it, and then really look at energy as a last trick or a last recourse, which is also how I perceive it in my own life. I do a lot of energy work, but often it's like the last resort, which maybe I should change my mind about that. I don't know, but that's how I perceive it um, right now. So Michelle is from New York. Yep, I remember that about you. Linda, I believe you're still in Virginia. Right, one important bit of housekeeping, because this is important. So one of my students, one of my one-on-one coaching students, has had to drop out last week because he just has too much work and he cannot focus on French right now. So I have one spot available. I always say that the French Fluency Accelerator students have first dibs. So if you are in the French Fluency Accelerator student and you want to be one of my one-on-one coaches, now is the time to book your call. So I posted in the French Accelerator group on Friday. So if you have missed that post and you're now here, please, that is the moment to book a free call with me from the link in the description. And if you're not in the French Accelerator, you can also book a call now, because it's officially open to other people. If you whoever comes first, basically. So there's only one spot as of right now. So if you would like to have it, I strongly recommend you book a call basically as soon as possible. My next openings are on Friday, because the days that I work with clients are Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. So you can book a call on Friday if you would like to maybe work with me. I need to tell you that booking a call is not a commitment on your part. It's just to speak, so we can speak together and see if that would work for you, or if you would be a right fit for the program. If you have questions about that, you can always ask them in the chat here. But it could be just better for you to just book your call, and then we talk one-on-one we have 30 minutes together. And that will be a good way to, because you can also talk to me, not just me talking to you and you writing in the chat. So I hope that makes sense. If you got any question, please just ask. All right, we have a bunch of comments. Connie's here. Hi, Connie. You're never gonna be the favorite at that rate. Stop joking. Or I'll continue. I don't know. So anyway, that was the housekeeping, and then we can dive on the topic for today. So if you have read my email, or if you have heard me say it before, 80 to 90% of learning a language is subconscious. I say 80 to 90%, but really we don't really know. It's somewhere between 80% and 95%. The bottom line is that it's the vast majority of learning a language, or even of speaking a language. When you think about it, when you are right now listening to me, or when you're speaking in any language, you do not think of all the grammar you're using. You do not think of choosing your words most of the time. Like if you are trying to choose your words, it's going to be very slow. Most of the time, the words just flow naturally based on what you want to say. You do not think of connecting the words, or like making sentences that are grammatically correct. All of that is done in the background by your subconscious mind. And it follows also that if you want to learn a language until fluency, you can only learn most of it also in a subconscious way, right? Because if you try to do everything consciously, you simply do not have enough processing power to get it done. It's just not enough, because your conscious mind is only a portion, like a very tiny portion of your brain's total processing power. Like the vast majority of the processing tasks that your brain does have are processed subconsciously. In the French Fluency Accelerator, we have a workshop which is about manifesting techniques for learning French. And in that workshop, I use the metaphor of a man sitting on an elephant. So your conscious mind is like a man, like a tiny little man sitting on a really big elephant. And your subconscious mind is the elephant. So it's your conscious mind's job to direct the elephant where it wants to go. But the problem is that it's not as strong. The elephant is a lot stronger. So you need to have great skill to be able, with your conscious mind, to direct your subconscious mind, because your subconscious mind, like if they pick a fight, if a man picks a fight with an elephant, the man is not going to win. So it takes a certain amount of skills and just finesse, I guess, to become able to stir your subconscious mind in the direction that you want. So if you have any part of your life that hasn't been working the way that you want, that could be the reason. That's most likely is the reason. It's just that you're losing the fight against the elephant, basically, because you do not know how to direct the elephant. So today we are looking a little bit more into how we can direct that elephant to make it do a bit more of what we want, a bit less of what we don't want. And like I said, in the French Fluency Accelerator, we have several workshops. I just mentioned 2 of them that are really listing all the techniques that you can use. Maybe not, I guess they're not exhaustive. I could always find more techniques, but really a whole toolbox of techniques that you can use. So I will share a couple today. Right, so the first thing, and I said there will be 3 techniques, or I don't even remember the title, 3 ways to unlock your learning power. The first thing I have for today is to address your limiting beliefs consciously. I'm looking at my outline to make sure that I have everything you want. Yeah, no, let me backtrack. So like I said, 80% or 80 to 90% of learning is subconscious, and that could either be great news or terrible news. So the great news would be that it really doesn't have to be so hard, because if you hand over 80% of the work to your subconscious mind, which you do subconsciously without really thinking about it, and you only do 20%, then it's great. You only have to do 20% of the work. So it could be a lot easier than you think it is. The bad news is that it is extremely sensitive to things like subconscious blockages and limiting beliefs and things that you might not even know. And that also means that if you do not know how to address the subconscious aspect of it, then you only get the chance to do the 20%. And that would be annoying. I mean, at this kind of rate, you can only ever be 20% fluent. It's not what you want, right? You want to be 100% fluent, or as close as you can to really mastering it. So that's why we're doing this today. Like, really, let's try to get as much as possible of those 80% done. It's an ongoing thing. It's really a lifelong commitment to get your subconscious mind to really do what you want it to do. So it's not something that, it's not going to be a one and done. It's not like you can watch this video and be like, okay, subconscious mind done. I wish it were like that, but unfortunately, it's not that simple. So I guess that's bad news for you, maybe. But yeah, if you're already committed, like for example, I'm completely committed to getting my subconscious mind to do more and more of what I want it to do. And, time after time, I just keep finding new ways of just directing it. So we'll do some of these today. If you have any questions so far, please type them in, or a comment or anything, because I would like to address the questions at the same time. And else we will go into the first thing, which is addressing limiting beliefs consciously. So there is already on this channel a video about limiting beliefs. It hasn't been very successful because I haven't really been, like, it's an old video that I made back in the days where I was just not as good as YouTube as I am now, which I don't think I'm very good at it, but I'm a lot better than I used to be. So it only has like 150 views, but the process in it is very sound. So I will go through this process with you again, because you probably haven't seen it. So it's I wrote 4 or 5 4-step process to release your limiting beliefs. The first step is to identify a limiting belief. That in and of itself is not so easy, because let me show you something. So this drawing is from The Code of the Extraordinary Mind by Vishen Lakhiani. And he represents it this way. So this is what you believe, right? And these are all the beliefs that you don't know. This is part of the reason why getting your subconscious mind to work is so complex, is because most of your beliefs, you're completely unaware of them. You have to uncover them little by little. So today we will address the one that you know you believe, and maybe through exchanging with other people also on the call, you will be like, oh, right, me too, I also believe that, and that will help you start uncovering the ones that you didn't know you believed. So there is a question here. Is it to the detriment of something else? Will I lose my ability in, say, mathematics if I embrace it? No, 100% no. So if you get your subconscious mind to do more of French, it's more likely to enhance your ability in mathematics than to damage it. I have never seen a person lose a mental ability to do anything as a result of getting more able to do something else. It's not like sports. Like, for example, if you do ballet and it trains you to put your feet this way, then you cannot also do horse riding, which trains you to put your feet this way, because this is a limitation of the physical body. But the brain doesn't work this way, as far as I can tell. It's possible if you do something like a lot all the time. For example, if you have a job that trains you to think in a certain way, it's possible that you will apply this thinking in other areas of your life, and then you will look at things in a different way. But even that, I wouldn't consider it to be a loss of ability. It's just that you tend to apply a pattern somewhere where you shouldn't be applying it. But if you consciously decide not to apply it, you can still do it. So no, like, there's no risk of losing another ability. Like, don't worry. Linda says, I wouldn't think so. You only use a small percentage of your brain. I would say that you use only a small percentage of your mental capacity, which is not really the same as your brain, but you get the idea. Yes, your mental capacity is potentially a lot larger than what you use right now. And this is true for every one of us. So the first step in addressing and releasing limiting beliefs is to identify one of your beliefs. So we'll try to target the beliefs that are limiting. Of course, you always have at any point a variety of beliefs. You have beliefs that are empowering, right? And those you want to keep, really, you want to keep and strengthen them. And those that are limiting you, you want to release them and process them and replace them by empowering beliefs. And that in and of itself is a process that you're never really done with it, but it works better and better, like it stacks up. So let's try and address some of your limiting beliefs. So please type in the comments the kind of beliefs that you have. Here are some that I've heard from students in the past. So a belief could be that you can never speak as well as a native. So if you believe that, please type it in. It could be that you will never be completely fluent because, for example, you have learned as an adult that adults have a harder time learning than children. That's a belief that I've heard, which it's not necessarily true, but many people believe that. Another belief I've heard is that if you're an English native, it's harder than if you're a native of another language. That, again, is not true, but you might be believing it. So if you do, please type it in the comment. And yeah, just type whatever belief you might have. So can you just complete this sentence? I cannot learn French well, or I cannot be fluent because. And what's after because? That's your belief. So it's something that you believe in. It may be true or it may not be true. Very often there isn't really such a thing as a belief that's true or not true. It's just a belief. And if you believe it, then it is true for you. But if another person believes something else, then that other thing will be true for them. So let's try and work with the ones that you have. I'm afraid I will never think in French because why? Just like, can you complete it with a because? Like, being afraid is not really the same thing as believing. So if you can feel the reason, that would be closer to the belief. So I'm just going to wait a little bit to see if we have some things to work with that we can practice today. Because the goal of doing it live is really to just be able to work with the things that you're bringing. Otherwise, I could take some that I've heard before, but yeah, because I can't figure out how to do it. Interesting. So let's take this one. So step number 2 is to be open to the idea that it may not be true or it may not be relevant to the situation. So I can't figure out how to do it. That's a belief. And whether you think you can or you think you can't, either way, you're right. So That's very tricky because, of course, if you believe that you can't, right? But how can you believe that you can if you think so how do you get there? So that's what we're doing here. Here's another one. I will not exceed my plateau in French. It's from Wannabe Actuary because I am not financially incentivized to do so. Ooh, this is a really interesting one because there would be two ways to address it. Either you would address the belief that you need to be financially incentivized to do it, or you could just decide to work with the belief and financially incentivize yourself to do it. So buy something or decide that, for example, you want to apply for a job and then you would have more money in that job if you speak French. But let's go with the belief because that's the topic of today. So what's the relation between being financially incentivized and learning French? Is it possible that maybe you don't need to be financially incentivized to learn French, right? So just be open to the idea. This is step 2. We got a couple more. I cannot think of any, Michelle cannot think of any limiting beliefs that you have. Yeah, you're also very, very advanced. So perhaps if you're you're already pretty close to being fluent, so maybe that doesn't really apply to you right now. But yeah, if you find something, please play along. Connie says, I decided to just tell myself that I may never speak as a native or be 100% fluent, and I am okay with that. That is a way of dealing with it. It's perfectly valid and it can work. I can only do what I'm capable of doing at any given time. Tomorrow could be different. Yes, so this would not qualify as a limiting belief. If anything, it's more the letting go of the belief and the need for a certain result. So this is a really good attitude to have. It definitely does not qualify as a limiting belief. So we cannot run the process on this because it's a good attitude to have. So the first step is to decide what you want to believe instead. So in the case of Linda, you can decide and should that you can actually figure out how to do it, right? You can figure it out. Or in the case of thinking in French, it's more likely that you don't need to figure it out, or that's a good belief to have, that either you can or you don't need to figure it out, it will just happen. That's what I would adopt if I was in your stead. Just thinking in the next language, thinking in a new language is something that ends up just happening. It happens gradually, but it's not something that you can really figure out consciously because it's a subconscious process. So can you adopt the belief that it will just happen, or alternatively that you can actually make it happen, or that you can figure it out? Tell me if that sounds like a good belief. And for when I'm sorry I forgot your first name. I know you told me, but I forgot. So if you can give it again, I would be very grateful. So your belief would be that you can learn French even if you're not financially incentivized. Tell me if that sounds like a belief that you could use. And then we move on to step 4. So step 4 is to gather evidence that this new belief is indeed true. So your new belief would be, for Linda, that you can figure it out, or that it will happen and you will gain the capacity to think in French. So in order to gather evidence for this one belief, what I would do is I would look for evidence that you have learned a thing in the past and that you have been able to acquire skills that are subconscious. So I know that, for example, you're a knitter and you have learned to knit, and it's an ability that's mostly subconscious. Like when you knit, as a practice knitter, you do not think of all the movement that you make; it just happens. And so that is a skill that you have developed. You can think, I'm sure, of other things that you have had beliefs with, and so on. So please think of things you've learned in the past and capacities that you have acquired, and that could serve as evidence for that this new belief is indeed true. It sounds like a good, yeah, I basically just lost. Tony, okay, thank you, Tony. That's very kind. And so for Tony, you want to believe that you do not need to be financially incentivized. So think, as they've been do you always need to be financially incentivized to succeed in something or to do something? Can you think of things that you've been able to do in the past where you had no financial incentive? It has to be a question for your own personal experience, because of course a belief is very personal, right? It only affects you unless you somehow force it onto someone else. So please think of your own experience and of what you've been able to learn. If you've learned, I don't know, if you've learned to ride a skateboard or ride a bike, or something you've learned perhaps as an adult, closer to right now, as opposed to something you learned as a child, because of course, for children it's different. But yes, what have you learned, and have you always had a financial incentive, or can you just not? Can you avoid having a financial incentive and still learn? Oh, we have a new belief from Connie. I believe that pronunciation will be my downfall. I still struggle with that. Pronunciation will be my downfall. So that means that you cannot become fluent because you cannot pronounce correctly. So how would I go about changing this one? I think I would gather evidence not from your own experience, because as far as I know, you haven't learned another language, right? And even then, the French could be different. But rather looking into people who have done it, people who have been able to do it, perhaps people who look like you. I know that, for example, you're friends with Linda, and Linda's French pronunciation is pretty good, like the way she pronounces. So if she has been able to learn it, if Linda has been able to learn it, there is no reason for you, Connie, that you wouldn't be able to learn it. Like, think about it. Is like, can you rationalize that there is a fundamental difference between Linda and you, which makes her able to do it and not you? Like, as far as I can tell, you're both American, you're both from the same kind of area, and you're in the same age range. I think it's, similar, right? But please tell me if for any reason that doesn't make sense to you, I would love to hear, because maybe you have a new limiting belief that's stacked on top. And that's actually a big thing with limiting beliefs, is that it's difficult because not only a good part of them are not conscious, but also they stack on top of each other. So that's really that's what makes it tricky, and that's why it has many layers, and it takes a long time to, or maybe you might not even ever kick them all out, but it's okay, because every layer that you remove gets better. So I hope this makes sense. If you have any question, please do it, and let's keep gathering evidence for a few more minutes before we move on to the second thing, which builds on top of that. So Linda says, I will think of something I learned more recently. I don't even remember learning to knit. Yeah, okay, so in that case, it's a bad example. I know you have a degree as a lab tech or something like that, so perhaps you have learned things like processes or something in this area, or other things you've learned more recently. Tony has got a decent level already, albeit based on school learning and relearning. I see all the good practices and the potential role models, and they seem to be fully immersed. That is interesting. So were you here last week because I spoke about immersion? I think it was last week. Have you watched the office hour about immersion? Because that could help you immerse yourself more. You do not need to be fully immersed, and there isn't really such a thing as fully immersed, because even if you would be in France all the time, or your only French stuff around you, most of your thought process would still be in English. Like, I managed to live in Austria, quote unquote, fully immersed, where everything around me is in German, but nonetheless, I think in English all the time, and some of the stuff that I read or listen to is in French. But I do almost no German. It's my own personal choice. I could decide to do it. But being in a French-speaking country, does not guarantee that you'll be immersed, unfortunately. So that's something to take into account. You're more likely to build your immersion through the content that you consume and through the people that you speak to than through the place where you live. So Connie is saying, English is my only known language. Evidently, when I was a small child, we lived in Germany and I spoke German. So that's something, actually, you have had the capacity to pronounce more than one language at some point. Linda is a lot smarter than I am and seems to pick up things better than I do. That is a limiting belief. That is a perfect example of a limiting belief. So you want to run the steps, right? So the belief is that Linda is smarter than you are, and she picks up things better than you do. I'm sure you got plenty of evidence for that, but we don't care about the evidence for your limiting beliefs. That's how you built it in the first place, and it's not helpful. The belief is not helpful. So step 2, be open to the idea that it may not be true. Linda may not be smarter than you are, and you may have the capacity to pick up things as fast or even faster than she does. It's possible, right? Like, do you think it can turn out that actually that's not the case and you're just as smart as she is, or smarter even? So that would be what you want to believe instead. Like, I am just as smart as Linda and I can pick up things as fast as she does. And then gather evidence that this new belief is indeed true. So what can you do that Linda cannot do? I do not know you well enough, Connie, to answer that, but I'm sure there are plenty of things, or maybe Linda can answer it, and say what it is that Connie can do, which you can't do. And actually, that was already an answer. You are just as smart as me, but anyway, smartness has nothing to do with language learning. That is also another thing that you can pick. You can pick the belief that smartness has nothing to do with language learning. And actually, this is true. And lots of dopes know more than one language. That is true. I know many. It has nothing to do with smartness. Michelle, I would like to be able to express myself as freely in French as in English regarding my profession of psychiatry and medicine, gardening, spirituality, and all my interests. Yeah, I mean, you wrote me an email an hour ago saying that you might want to do one-on-one coaching with me. So that's something we can work on. It's not really a belief; it's more like a goal. So I'd recommend you book a session, like a free session with me, through that link in my description. I have one spot now, so if it if it's a fit, you can have it, and then that's something I can help you with. It's not really part of the topic here, but we can work on that in our one-on-one coaching. So Tony is saying, however, other than employment and job satisfaction plus helping others, I am struggling to recall things that I succeed in. To check out last week's, there is always comparing to others, just as point. Yes. So here's the thing. Other than enjoyment and job satisfaction plus helping others, and so your belief was about the need for a financial incentive. Enjoyment is not a financial incentive. Helping others is also not financial. Maybe you can connect French to, well, enjoyment. Like you should be able to enjoy. You should be able to enjoy French. Hopefully, I mean that's why you want to watch everything where I spoke about the daily French bath. Yeah, well, the one about immersion, that's the same one, so that you can enjoy the French language, and then it might be relating to helping others. Like, for example, you could be in a language exchange and find some French person which you could help with English, and they would help you with French. So that would be helping each other. So yeah, there are plenty of ways that you can work that. Michelle is saying, I'd like to speak about quilting, volunteering. Oh, you booked for Friday. Okay, great. So I'll speak to you on Friday. That's perfect. We can work on that. So after you've run those 4 steps, so let me remind you, let's identify the belief, be open to the idea that the belief may not be true or may not be relevant. So for example, for Connie, if you're not very smart, it doesn't matter. It's not relevant to learning a language. Decide what, and it may not be true either. Decide what you want to believe instead, and then gather evidence that the new belief is indeed true. And then there's a fifth step that I had not included in the original video about beliefs. That would be to start acting according to this new belief. And so that's my second point in this office hour today, is that what you want to do, a great way to adjust your subconscious is to tweak your habits. So what you do and what you believe is sort of intertwined. It's almost impossible to separate your beliefs from what you do, because all the beliefs that you have about yourself, they from your self-image. And in accordance to your self-image. It's also something that I shared a few weeks ago. So probably you remember that if you were already here. All of your belief about yourself form your self-image, and as you are not capable to act not in accordance with your self-image. You will always behave in accordance to your self-image. Like, that's always connected. So of course, as soon as you've identified this belief that you've decided you want to build and strengthen, you need to act according to your new belief. So if this new belief was indeed true, that say you don't need a financial incentive, or say you are actually able to pronounce French correctly, or you are actually able to think in French, what would you do differently? Perhaps even better, what would you do differently every day? So perhaps if it has become easier to understand French or to think in French, you would be able to listen to the French radio, and maybe you would be calling a friend and speaking to them in French, for example. And you want to just start doing that. And if you do it as a habit, and you form a habit of doing it every day, like at the same time, then that will help solidify the belief, and that will work hand in hand. So I hope that makes sense. Please share with me, what would you do differently now that you have your new belief? What can you do differently, and what will you start doing differently as a result? Speaking of habits, I've spoken about habits plenty of times on this channel, plenty of time in the French Fluency Accelerator. You have actually, even in the French Life Launchpad, the third, I believe, module is about habits, and that's also the third module in the French Accelerator. And then we have this workshop, which is about manifesting techniques for learning French, which is full of things that you can do as a habit, like little things that takes hardly any time. So those are the examples. If you're in the French Accelerator, you want to check that out. You want to check the workshop about manifesting. If you're not in the French Accelerator, you're welcome to join it and then check it. I would love to have you in the group. And then you have those habits which are super important that I have also spoken about on this channel. So the daily French bath, again, that I spoke about in the office hours about immersion, that's the one big habit. And if you are seeking to adopt a belief that you can indeed understand French and practice with practice French just as if you were a native or as if you were fluent, then you want to do the daily French bath. That's going to be a very important habit. And try to convince yourself that you can understand it, even if you don't really understand it, because in the French bath, how much you understand is not important. You understand a lot more subconsciously than you do consciously. And I know it's really weird to think about that, but I have a story that illustrates that super well. One day I was at the dentist in Berlin. I was actually getting my teeth cleaned. And I had not realized, but I was clenching my teeth on the finger of the hygienist, or the person who was doing the teeth cleaning, like this. And I wasn't realizing that I was doing it, but I was clenching her finger. And she said something in German, and then I released my jaw, and so she could take her hand away. And only after my jaw was already released, I understand, "Don't bite me," in German. And I was stunned when I realized that, because my brain translated, or like not really translated, but gave the meaning "don't bite me," but I had already released my jaw. So I had already complied with the request before I could understand it consciously. And so I hope that gets the point across to you that yes, you understand more of the language subconsciously than consciously. You could perhaps almost even listen to subliminals in a foreign language and get something out of it, if that makes sense. Yeah, please tell me if that makes sense, or if I need to re-explain it. I'm not sure if that I'm getting the point across. But you really understand more subconsciously than consciously, and that is why the daily French bath is so effective. And that's why you must not be resisting the daily French bath. Like, you must not either resist it, like as in not do it, or do it but be like, oh, I don't understand anything, I don't understand anything, I don't understand anything. Because you could have this on repeat, but I promise you, it's a belief. Subconsciously, you understand a lot more than you understand consciously. So Connie says that makes sense. Oh, I'm glad it makes sense. Cool. So yeah, what would you do differently if you really believed your new belief? Michelle's saying that totally makes sense. All right, and I know you're a psychiatrist, so I'm probably making okay sense. That I'm gonna give myself a pat on the back. I'm happy that it makes sense. It's good. So what could you do differently to adopt your new beliefs? That's like the question I want to leave you with for this part, number 2. And the third part that I have is now about addressing blocks at the level of energy, because everything that we are doing so far, we're actually using the conscious mind to, we're using the whole idea behind everything we've been doing today is to use the conscious mind to direct the subconscious mind. And the thing with that is that I've noticed with doing it in my own life is that it works-ish, but often what happens is that I will do 3 steps forwards and then I'll take 2 steps back. 2 steps back. Can't talk today. Kind of a bit tired. So I will often do 3 steps forwards. And for example, that can happen. Like, you decide you start a new diet. And by the way, it works for language learning, but it works for everything else in your life. It's not specific to language learning. So you can, whatever I'm saying right now about the subconscious, you can apply it to any other technique. And so, for example, if you decide that you adopt a self-image where you're super healthy and you only eat like vegetable and lean meat and super healthy diet, as opposed to the binge eating diet that you had before. And if you do that, very often what will happen is that you will go all into your new diet for a while, and then after a relatively short time, you will fall back into some of your old habits. So if you're lucky, you will not lose everything. You'll keep 1 step. So if you go 3 steps forward and 2 steps back, that's okay. You still have moved forward. You really want to avoid doing something like 3 steps forwards and 5 steps back. It's something that I've noticed for myself, that if I do a lot of progress in a particular area, I'm very likely to self-sabotage after that. And so really the thing is, the way to avoid taking 5 step backs and then finding yourself set back instead of finding yourself worse off as a result of trying to tweak your mindset or trying to tweak your belief, is really to be extremely mindful of habits. This is particularly true for everything health related, so food, diet, sleep, etc. But it's also true for language learning and really any other kind of personal growth that you're doing. If you stick to your habits and you become a lot more, you bring more mindfulness to your habits instead of doing things on autopilot, that will help you being set back less. It doesn't mean that you won't step back. Like, it's almost impossible not to make a step back. Like, no one has a linear growth. but you will have, it will at least stop you from regressing, which unfortunately you have cases of people who have regressed. So for example, I know that Tony Robbins has a very famous story of when he was young, I think he became a millionaire really, really fast at the age of 19. And he had like this business, and the press was like calling him Wonder Boy and whatever. And was really, really super successful, super fast. And then within the next year or so, he not only he lost everything, but he found himself in a worse state than he had been before. So he started putting on a lot of weight really fast. He even couldn't be contacted on the phone because his phone had been disconnected because he hadn't paid the bills. It was terrible. Like, it was way worse after becoming rich than before, because he just lost everything and then some. And that was actually that's the origin story of Tony Robbins. What set him up on his journey to really understanding personal growth, and what makes your subconscious mind sabotage you in this way. Like, why, when you make so much progress, you can end up being even worse off. And the answer to how to avoid it is really by catching yourself before you fall too bad. And habits is the best way. So I hope that makes sense. Yeah, Connie is saying, I always look at the total growth versus the daily growth. Yeah, this is also important. Like, if you're now, compare yourself to where you were like last year. If you're higher, then you're good, even if you're lower than you were yesterday. So total growth versus daily growth. That's a really good habit to have. So congratulations. So like I said, if you do three step ahead and 2 step backs, it's still some growth, but personally, I think it's not good enough, especially if you get stuck and you can't move any farther. And unfortunately, that happens, and that happens because of this, which I showed you before. So there are these things which you can address with the technique that we had, but you also have all of this which you haven't uncovered, and that could still be holding you back. And that is why we use quote unquote energy work. So energy work is really, it's a weird way of putting it, but it's really any and all techniques that can allow you to address your subconscious mind and talk to your subconscious mind with stuff that the subconscious mind understands. Because the subconscious mind just has a really, really hard time understanding language. And that has to do with how the brain is built. So I don't know how much you know about the brain. I mean, some of you here obviously know a lot, and maybe some of you don't know that much. But basically, the brain is built like an onion in successive layers. So the layers at the center of the brain is what you have in common with all the animals, even maybe not all animals, but even reptiles. That's why we call it the reptilian brain. And then you have I don't remember the names right now. I can't be smart and be talking to a camera at the same time, I guess. But yeah, you have the reptilian brain, and then you have sort of a layer which you have in common with mammals, mostly like dogs and cats and all the elephants. They all have this in common. And then you have the outer layer, the frontal cortex. I'm sure I'm saying something to be. Please correct me, those of you who know, like Michael, you can probably correct me. So you have the outer layer, which is the only one that's like human. But the outer layer constitutes really the consciousness, well, not the consciousness, but the things that you are conscious of. And then the lower layer, like your subconscious mind, what we refer to when we think of the subconscious, is mostly hosted in this layer that you have in common with mammals and just the lower layers of the brain, and also corresponds often to the lower layers of brain waves. So you're more likely to reach or to connect with your lower layers of brain waves. Your lower brain waves you are more likely to connect you to your subconscious than when you are awake, which is why we use a lot of meditation in energy work. So I hope that makes sense so far. If you have any questions, please ask them. Michael is saying, setting up a healthy and helpful daily routine is helpful in attaining your goal. Yeah, it's probably the only way. I don't think you can attain any goal if you don't have some sort of daily routine. Like, my routine right now is not very much solidified. I don't do the same things every day. But like, when I wake up, I move, whether I do some yoga or I go to the gym or I take a walk. If I don't move in the morning, it's not going to work out, for example. I also drink water first thing in the morning because, I always have water here. So that's, daily routine is super important. Even if it's not super solid, it's really important. And also for learning French, right? I speak so much about routine and habits for learning French, just because it's the best way to learn. Right. So please, if you have any questions about energy work and how that works, ask them now. And then if you'd like, we can try and do a little meditation now live to just maybe release some beliefs, or I don't know, I can just freestyle it. Cortex, frontal, prefrontal, parietal, occipital, temporal lobes, cerebellum is in the back. Right. So this is all the outer layers, right? What do you call the layer that's inside of the cortex? Any question? Please tell me if you'd like to do a little meditation now and try to uh, address your subconscious. So we have this workshop about energy work. Limbic system, right? That was the one I was thinking of. So the limbic system is the one where you mostly store emotions. And unfortunately, your emotions, they can either help you or brainstem. I was thinking of the limbic system. That's mostly where your emotions are being processed, and your emotions can either help you or hinder you, but you want them to help you, right? You want your emotions to you want your emotions to support you, because if you have like it's also something I don't think I have spoken about it recently, but in my old webinar, if you were there back in the days, Learn French Fast with a Foolproof Formula, the first part of that webinar was about pain versus pleasure. And at its core, your limbic system, like the cortex, does whatever in order to satisfy the wants of the limbic system. And your limbic system only really has two functions: acquire pleasure, run away from pain. Like it's really the fundamental survival of things. Like think of it, the things that will help you and your genes to survive tomorrow and to be passed on to the next generation are things that are inherently pleasurable in life. So it's like things like food, having enough drink, being able to like sleep enough, and being able to reproduce. Those are all the things that are fundamentally pleasurable. And all the other pleasures in life that we have, like when we, for example, learn something or when we succeed in doing something, fundamentally are things that will help those functions better. Like if you get a better job, you'll be able to feed yourself and be safer, and like feed your children and take care of your children better. So it's like the higher layers of this, and you'll be able to avoid whatever you perceive to be painful. But the thing is, you can actually associate things with pleasure or pain that may have nothing to do with it. So for example, is learning French inherently pleasurable or inherently painful? Like, please just tell me. Actually, that would be interesting to have your answers. Do you think learning French is enjoyable, or is it painful? And if you think that it is painful, well, that's probably one reason why you struggle, because your brain always will run away from pain and um, run towards pleasure. So if French is painful, then you're going to avoid it, and that's going to be really, really hard, and you're going to have a lot of difficulties in your learning. Lina says, yes, please. So I think that was to the meditation thing. I'll try to get myself in shape. I'll just ground a bit. And right, Connie says, I find that on the weekends when I don't have to work, I tend to be less structured. That is also normal, and I don't think it's a problem to be less structured in the weekend. I have to actually force myself into daily French. That is a bad thing. I mean, bad. Is that not as in morally bad, but it's not preferable. I'm getting better at it, but I do struggle. So Linda is trying to help do mostly French bath in the car. We're getting ready for work. Oh, okay. So that's because you do it as part of your work routine, and it's difficult to do in the weekend. What I would recommend in this situation is that you have a different French bath for the weekend. So maybe you find a series that you love in French. For example, I don't know, Call My Agent, or there's the recent series about Lupin. I think I heard you say that you like crime things. So you could just watch a series on the weekend in French. And if you need with English subtitles, it's perfectly fine to have English subtitles on your daily French bath. And you really need to pick something that you will actually enjoy. So yeah, that should work. Michelle is saying French is enjoyable, so this is good. This is you want to keep that. Weekends, I become a sloth and do nothing. There you go. We have to find a way for you to replace that. Or not. I mean, it's also okay to relax on the weekend. Like, can you be a sloth in front of a French series? Because it would still work. Like, that's the thing. Like, we do have a culture of wanting to do all the time, every day of the week. And we're not built to do that as humans. Like computers can do that, but not humans. So I think rather than trying to push yourself to do more, I would try to find a way to be a sloth and have the French bath, in the background, even if you're not understanding, or like listening to music, French music. You could, like, there's tons of French music on Spotify, for example. All right, so I try to get you a little meditation for energy. So just sit back. If you have your back and neck supported, it's better. If you're lying down, it works. There's a risk that you'll fall asleep. But right, so let's just relax. Try to have your palms facing upwards, and have your legs not crossed. And if you know how to ground, you can ground. If you don't know how to ground, that consists in sending your energy down into the earth. So imagine that you have a sort of a trunk, or like a column of light, however you want to visualize it, or an umbilical cord that goes from your heart down into the earth. And that's what we call grounding. It should be very, very peaceful. And breathe in. And breathe out. If you'd like, you can also seek to have a connection from the sky to the top of your head, and you can feel that connection go down your body, and maybe you can have it go down your back or down your spine, and then it can connect at your heart with the connection you have from the earth. And then again, I know that this could feel woo-woo for some of you, but think of it as just a way to create a visualization for your subconscious. And you know that you're being supported by the earth and by the heavens, and that this is helping your subconscious feel safe in the here and now. So right now, there isn't any danger. You are perfectly safe, and you have a little container of space to look at your beliefs and look at what's holding you back and to release it. So you can put your hands on top of each other or close to each other and imagine a little ball of energy in your hands, and you can move your hands around of the ball of energy. And if you don't know how to do this, you can quickly open your eyes and look at what I'm doing. If you know how to do this, just do it. So imagine that you have a ball of energy that's in between your hands. And in this little ball of energy, you will put the things that bothers you. So the difficulty in learning French, perhaps the fact that you're a sloth in the weekend and you don't like that, or that some topics are more difficult to speak about in French, or that you don't really have an incentive to learn French and you don't like that. And all of the things that bother you, you put them in this little ball of energy. And you know that it can just be safe here. You do not have to harbor it in your brain or anywhere in your body. Just put it in the little bowl. And if you want, you can also add in the bowl anything that's bothering you. Maybe you had a fight with someone, or maybe you have a situation that you don't love in your life. Just imagine just placing that energy or that thing that you don't like in that bowl of light. You can put any belief, anything that bothers you, anything that you don't want to have. Mentally imagine that you're placing it in that bowl of light. And then visualize a person, or perhaps it could be a guide or an angel, or it could even be a thing. Like, if you like, you can have it be a trash collecting truck, or anything really that you would feel safe handing your ball over to. So if you're a bit worried that the ball will cause a problem, try to hand it over to someone you trust, or something you trust, like an angel who inspires trust to you. And if you think it's just garbage and you could just trash it, you can visualize maybe someone holding a trash can. And just then when you're ready, just breathe in. And then you hand over the ball of energy with everything that you've put in it to that person or into that trash can. And you just let it go. And then you place your hands back with your palms facing upwards. And appreciate how much quieter it is now that this energy, these beliefs, this annoying junk is gone, and see the person leaving with it and the trash can or the trash truck leaving with it, and know that now you are released from it. And actually you have an empty space in your life right now. And now we will seek to fill this empty space with super good, super supportive energy. So make sure that you check in with your grounding. So you're connected to the earth. You were connected before, you're still connected. If you're not connected anymore, just reconnect. Like feel your heart connected to the earth and feel that you have the connection from the heaven and connecting from the top of your head onto your heart and then back down into the earth. And then from this connection that you have to the heaven, feel that you have or visualize or sense some golden light that comes down like a shower of light, and that will completely fill all the spots where you have removed the junk that you didn't want anymore. So again, it's just a visualization. You do not need to believe in the light or the angels or something. This is just imagery that you use. But the more you can visualize it, the more powerful it will be. So just take a moment, breathe in, imagine that you're breathing in the golden glittering light, and this light is filling your energy, and now you feel both quiet and fulfilled. So if you have some energy skills and you know how to check with your field of energy, just make sure that your field is completely full of the light, that you do not have any holes or any loss of energy anywhere. And if you are new to this, it's okay. Just sit back and visualize yourself surrounded by golden light and breathe in the light and breathe out. And just take a moment to appreciate that we have done some beautiful energy work and that we are now better equipped to move on with our life. And in a moment, I will count from 1 to 3 and snap my fingers. And at the count of 3, you will be wide awake, feeling fine and in perfect health, feeling better than before. 1, coming out slowly now. 2, at the count of 3, you will be feeling fine and wide awake, feeling better than before. 2, 3, eyes open, wide awake, feeling better than before. So I completely freestyled this one. It was just, inspiration on the moment. So please tell me how was the experience, if that helped. I would love to have any feedback. If you felt that something was bothering you or if you felt that something was particularly good, please let me know, because that's how I will get better at it. So I look forward to, we do have a couple more minutes left. I would love to have some feedback. So please let me know in the comments. So Linda is saying French is mostly enjoyable. Some parts make me run away. I know which parts you mean, like the grammar, right? I should have put something about the grammar. You can do the visualization again and just let go of French grammar. It's actually a perfectly fine way to deal with it. French natives do not think of grammar when they speak. Grammar is not so sacred that you have to deal with it. The only important thing about grammar is that you find a way to get your point across. If your grammar is kind of broken, it's typically okay. There are some cases where with your situation, not you personally, Linda, but if you work with French and you need people to respect you, sometimes you will need your French to be really, really good and the grammar to be really correct. But for most people, it doesn't matter all that much. So you can feel free to put it in a ball of energy and then let it go. Connie saying you have changed your TV to have French subtitles, so that gives you an opportunity to read French, not so much to hear it. I would recommend doing it the other way around. If you can have a French series with English subtitles, that will be more efficient, probably. Lyrics training app is fun. I will have to check that out. I actually don't know what that is, but if you are referring to something like karaoke, where you have a French song and the French lyrics and you listen to them, then that is a great way. Like French karaoke, if you enjoy singing, sing some French music. It's great for pronunciation, it's great for grammar, it's great for vocabulary, it's really great for everything. Right. So if you have any questions or anything I can help you with, please ask them in the comments. I'm wondering right now if everybody is still asleep from the meditation. I mean, if you are still asleep, then it means I did a good job, I guess. But I would love to have a little bit of feedback about that. I'm actually feeling more awake and less tired than I was before because I've been doing the meditation as I was guiding it. So I hope that was helpful for you as well. Please let me know. I'm not sure what's up with the, yeah. I'll just wait a little bit. We have some 4 minutes left. Hey, it's almost 8 p.m. I must have been late without realizing. So if you have any question about anything, I don't think I have mentioned Telegram yet, but if you're not following me on Telegram, you really want to, the link is in the description. Like I was saying, I have one spot available for one-on-one coaching. I know that Michel or Michael has already booked a call for that, but that doesn't mean that he will necessarily want to have this one spot. So if you would like to have one, please also book a call and we can see like if it's a good fit for you. Off-topic questions, I love those. Oh wait, we have a call from Linda first. Lol, no, I'm awake. This was good. It was helpful to visualize putting the belief in a ball of light and throwing it away. Good. I'm glad because I just made it up on the spot. I just was like, I wrote on try guiding a meditation on the call if we have enough time. I didn't write anything, and it came to me. I'm glad that really helped. Michelle is saying my meditation is very helpful. Cool. I'm glad you like it. It's really nice. If you have any other feedback, I'm happy to help. I will definitely make more meditations for this channel and also for the French Accelerator. So off-topic question, is it better to continue speaking in French, struggling to find a word, or is it okay to switch out to English? It depends. It depends on the situation. So really it depends on what is your goal. So for example, I speak English a lot. I do have more advanced students, including some people on this call who have complained that I speak so much English and they would like me to speak French more. But the reason why I speak so much English is because I want you to understand what I say, even if your French is not great. So that's why I will use more English than perhaps most teachers, because I'm not a teacher, I'm a coach, and like it's more important for me to get across the processes, to get my point across to you, than to have you hear only French. If you want to hear only French, there are plenty of YouTube channels, there are plenty of daily French bath, and that's what you want to use to hear only French. My job is to get my point across. So that, following this logic, if you're in a situation where you absolutely need to get the communication across, and you're not able to do it in French, you know the other person is likely to understand English, it's okay to switch out. Now you need to know that this will not help you improve your French, and that this might even wear a neural pathway in your brain that tells you, oh, it's okay to not speak French. So that's more like a last resort situation, but there are some situations in life where it will be, sometimes you just need the communication to be fast. That happens. In all other cases, if it's a learning situation, if you're on a one-on-one session with me, I know you don't do one-on-one sessions, Connie, but like if you're in a session with a teacher, or if you're in a class where the goal is for you to speak English as much as you can, then it's better to try to stick to French and not struggle to find a word, but instead try to find a way of communicating with other words. That's something that I do pretty much all day, every day. Well, I mean, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, the days that I work with clients. Every single session, I train my clients to speak with the words that they do know or the words that they can find right now. And actually, I only give new words if either, like, I mean, maybe they're beginners and they cannot speak with the very few words that they have, or after they have been able to get their point across with the words that they do have. So I mean, you've been learning French for a long time, Connie. So if you have already a lot of vocabulary, you can find a way to sort of communicate your idea, even if it's not the best way. And that's what I would want you to do in most situations, as opposed to struggling to find a word. Because if you are not finding one word, you might stay stuck for a long time. So try to find other words and express your idea. I hope that makes sense. Serenity is here. Hi, welcome. Can I recommend books about language learning? Yeah, I can. It depends on what kind of book you would like to have. These are the books that I use for grammar. So, Grammaire progressive du français. This is the beginner one, and this is the intermediate. Those are the two books that I use with my students and in my programs. They are really, really good for grammar. The little sometimes downside is that they're entirely in French, but they are written to be very easy to understand. So, for example, at the very beginning, yes, it's all in French, but it's very few sentences, and then the drawing helps you understand. So those are the books that I use for grammar. This is a book that I use for conjugation, Becherel, La conjugaison pour tous. There are lots of Becherel books because they have made like a complete franchise of it, but the one you want to have is La conjugaison. This is the book that helps the French know their own verbs. So you have charts for every verb types. That's useful. Then I use these books for the DELF, for people who prepare the DELF exam. Those are the ones that I use every day. And then, of course, you can have reading books, for example. So yeah, please let me know if you want to know anything more specific. I do not use anymore any book which is like as a progression of the language, because the way that I work is with a special curriculum, like a curriculum for each student. And also in my group courses, I recommend this, like I walk the students through the step-by-step process of making their own curriculum. So that's the case in the French Launchpad and in the French Accelerator. So I hope that answers your question, Serenity. If you have a follow-up question, please ask. Connie says, rephrasing questions and statement using what you know, that makes sense. Yes, it's like the strategy to communicate, not just in French, but in English. Like imagine if you don't remember, if you have a brain fart and you don't remember a word in English, you will strive to say it in another way. Like that's what you do, right? Okay, so we are actually over the hour. So I think I'm gonna just go hop off. If there's a question, I will take that. So there's a comment. I like visualization, visualizing the 7th chakra as I meditate. That helps me to ground myself and to connect me to greater good, small parts of the whole world, and I tap into positive people around me. The process relaxing for me. Yes, actually, I want to make a chakra meditation for this channel. I have already started to write it, but I didn't record it yet. So it's good that you remind me. I'll definitely make a chakra meditation for connection. I was looking for chakra meditation for international communication on YouTube. And not only I did not find one, so I was like, okay, I'm going to make it. But I didn't even find a meditation for international communication at all that wouldn't be with the chakras. And I was like, yeah, I might want to make those too. So yeah, I have tons of ideas. I just need to get around to filming all of that and recording it. All right, Serenity says, thank you. Those looks great. What about books about how memory works, how to study in general? Right now, I don't really have any book that comes to mind, but I will think about it for later. But you will find lots of great resources even on YouTube. There are so many good videos. So when I have questions about that, I honestly just type it in YouTube and I find answers, or in Google even you can find blogs and everything. So I do not have a book right now that comes to mind, but I'll think about it. All right, so that will be it for today. We're already over time. Thank you guys for being with me today. I will see you Monday again. Those of you that have some sessions with me, I will see you then in your sessions. Those of you who are in the French Accelerator, I'll see you in the group. And yep, I wish you a great week and à la semaine prochaine. Au revoir.